I think they look at us as bodies and they don't respect us as people and they don't value our skills that we've built up over time.
In the U.S., oil companies have recorded unprecedented profits as Americans grapple with the rising cost of living.
The fossil fuel sector, fossil fuel employers have really never been held accountable.
As we see the worsening effects of climate change around us, from hurricanes to droughts to extreme heat, it's become clear that we need to change fast. Massive climate demonstrations around the world have called for fossil fuel companies to take action and for consumers to change their behavior. But one group often gets left out of the picture: the industry's millions of employees worldwide. Save the Triceratorts is an exploration of how we dismantle the fossil fuel industry, build a better industry to replace it, and use tort law to make that a reality.
Employees never get anything for granted. We always have to fight. That now we can see the huge benefits that the oil companies are receiving, that the benefits that they are making, the profits, and this is not reverting to the workers, to the unions.
But employers do not have a fiduciary duty to their employees or a duty to act in their best interest financially. What would it mean if, in the face of climate change, fossil fuel companies did have this kind of obligation to their employees? Oil profits have soared recently, especially in the last year. Those profits have not trickled down to the workers.
The state of Massachusetts is currently suing Exxon for misleading investors about the inherent risks climate change poses to its business, as well as the climate dangers of the fossil fuel products. This should apply to their employees as well. Fossil fuel companies knew about the climate impact of their products long before the public did, and instead of funding a transition to clean energy, elected instead to fund a disinformation campaign to confuse employees, investors, and the public about research conclusions their own scientists found. The American Petroleum Institute created a global science communications plan to ensure that, quote, climate change becomes a non-issue. The key prong of that plan asserted that, quote, victory will be achieved when uncertainties in climate science become part of the conventional wisdom. The fossil fuel companies knew that climate change was occurring, that climate change was irreversible, that we needed to take action on climate change, and yet instead of taking any action at all, sowed a campaign of disinformation to their employees, investors, and the public. What they did was lie.
Right, so big oil has failed over and over and over again. I can keep saying over, and they'll just continue to keep failing. They tend to host these like expositions where they'll fly you out to a different city, and the big oil industry I was involved with, the company I was involved with, was Citgo. And so they'd involve us there, and they would openly lie to me and like other workers who were there about the fact that big oil was thriving, that it was making the right transitions, but those were not warranted transitions of their own volition.
Sure.
They were just transitions that they were being forced to do, and it's very pejorative the way that they handle it.
When looking at the damages to big oil employees, they are nothing short of exorbitant. The damages begin with the central essence of their staff, those hyper-specialized with jobs catering to the big oil industry, such as well testers, crude oil drivers, and gas plant operators, among many others. Their skill set ties them to the industry, and big oil trains them in a manner to leave no transferability. They necessitate an element of retraining to make them marketable outside of a dying industry. The other group of employees, the majority, who possess some specialty skills due to big oil's extensive training, have transferable skills towards decarbonized energy sectors, yet big oil has led them to believe they don't. The manipulation and dependency created by big oil through high-paying but short-term jobs in a rapidly dying and changing industry has led them to stick it out and further drive themselves to ruin. The survey of beliefs reflects such, and the opportunity costs require considerable quantification to properly hold big oil accountable.
We know that the oil industry is harming its employees, and many of us may feel helpless taking on such a powerful adversary. Fortunately, the Justice Transition Framework already exists to advance oil employee concerns. What is a just transition? While there is no one concrete definition, according to the International Labour Organization, as nations and businesses transition towards greener, resilient, and climate-neutral economies and societies, we should strive to do so in a way that is fair and inclusive, creates decent work opportunities, and leaves no one behind. Which worker remedies exist under a just transition? According to Ms. Samantha Smith of a Just Transition Center, one way could be to empower sectoral unions, giving employees control over the company's future.
And they also have a duty to consult, certainly about the impacts of planned restructuring on employees. Now, unlike in some European countries where it's not just a duty to exchange information, unions actually, like, we sit on the boards of many of our big companies over here. We've got our hands on the wheel deciding which way the company's going to go.
Second, knowing that oil will succumb to clean energy, companies should retrain their workers and equip them with the skills necessary to succeed in this new industry. Third, oil companies can phase out and financially support employees located in areas that are not prime candidates for the clean energy industry. Without oil's intentional and immediate support, these individuals and communities will certainly be left unemployed, left neglected, left behind. Whatever route oil employers choose to take, the important thing is that they start early and they make decisions alongside, not for, the impacted communities that have grown dependent on them.
But what if employers don't take on this responsibility? What if companies continue to ignore a responsibility to their workers as the climate crisis intensifies? We propose a new tort, a claim that employees can bring against their employers for breaching their duty of care to employees. We've already shown that these companies have harmed their employees and proved that there are steps companies can take to fix these problems. Lawsuits are a powerful tool to force change and advance justice. The threat of employee lawsuits could pressure companies to proactively transition and provide a remedy for employees harmed by this past neglect.
Time for one more question.
Okay.
Is there anything you want to tell our audience, anything you haven't shared that they need to know?
I think it's just to do right by the workers, really. When we move forth as we should, the workers shouldn't fall behind.